should kick back on here in just a moment. We'll be live. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Hi there. We're back, and we've got audio this time, so we are now running. Welcome.
Those of you who can read lips, you already know what we said. Dang it. I do that about every fifth time I do like a Minecraft video.
Yeah, forget to click one thing.
Yeah, forget to click that one thing.
Out. Yeah.
It happens to all of us.
The one time a while back, I recorded like 30 or 40 minutes worth of video and then realized I forgot to click start recording.
Oh, God.
Yeah, you lose all that gameplay, but that's fine. So anyway, hi everybody. Welcome to the FoundryCast. I am Zach.
I'm Cyrus.
And we're the founders of the Foundry. The FoundryCast, the website and podcast where we cover all kinds of nerdy goodness. You can check us out on thefoundrycast.com if you haven't already. You can follow us here on Facebook. Check us out on YouTube as well. Got a lot on our plate tonight. We're going to talk about what?
Everything. Well, of course, we'll start off some news here in just a moment.
Yeah.
We'll have some table topics about in-game loot, how to reward your characters in-game with all kinds of special goodies.
That's gonna be
Raleigh Supercon, we've got a big discussion about that because we have some news, or some maybe news, and just where we're going to be going over the next few months. Definitely want to review the 24-hour stream. We haven't done a live broadcast with both of us together since...
Not since the 24-hour stream, which was about a month ago.
And so you can see we still have the decor up from that because, one, it meant a lot to us, and two... the weird thing is with Extra Life, the donation is always available. Is it over there?
Right here.
Right there.
Yeah. I don't think nobody can click on it right now because we're not on Twitch and we don't have the same setup.
Right.
But yeah, our Extra Life page, we have links to it in some of our Facebook stuff if you'd like to contribute. It's a very worthy charity. We'd appreciate that a lot.
And of course, in a little bit, we'll also talk about Infinity War. Big movie that everyone's talking about and have very strong opinions about either way. I have yet to hear someone go, I've
been probably the most ambivalent of anybody I know about it, and I still really enjoyed it. So. But we'll get there. We'll talk about some other movies and TV shows and stuff we like. We've been watching lately as well, I'm sure.
We always enjoy doing unboxings as well to kind of keep it interesting and also... allow you sometimes, the fans, the viewers, to affect what happens. So we did this months ago, but I was blessed at Christmas to get more of these Hunter's Reserve meats.
Stream last year, so reviving the tradition.
So we did the wild boar, I believe, last year, and it tasted kind of funky.
It was not great, as I recall.
So I'll save that for peanut butter crackers some other time. There's also classic. It's just a hickory summer sausage.
Delicious.
But the interesting things, and Hunter's does like interesting game meats. Bison.
I love me some bison. A little bit leaner than beef. Really nice.
Venison. And elk. I cannot say I've ever had elk before.
I'm not sure what the difference between venison and elk. Well, I guess elk and deer, but they seem like they're kind of the same.
They're family, but I mean boar and pork.
That's very true. Yeah, very true. So, go ahead.
Yeah, if you want to vote, hey Jessica, what's up? Good to see you.
Welcome.
You had a really great post earlier today about Katy Perry. So what's up? And if you want to vote, what meat us carnivores are going to eat a little bit later on,
or
after the news. Try to eat, try to choke down.
We'll see.
Feel free to say what's up.
Yeah,
Jessica.
choices are venison, elk, and bison. We'll be taking votes through the show, and then later on we'll crack one of them open and give it a try.
Let's jump into the news. There's some movie news. It's kind of a small note. I didn't even know they're going to be relaunching this movie. Okay. And this is another movie that I don't think they needed to relaunch.
Yeah.
When more efforts could be put to another Stephen King property, which is Dark Tower. But the movie that they are re-releasing is Pet Sematary.
Remaking
it. Remaking it.
Okay.
I don't know what more there is to tell.
Well, I felt that way about It as well. I mean, you didn't really need to remake It.
True.
You know, that's something we've talked about so much on so many of our episodes in the past. Is, you know, Hollywood's kind of out of ideas. It feels like, and you know, it's been years now where we just constantly are seeing remakes and reboots and soft reboots and.
Well, and we're in a genre of horror right now that's so found footage style, or
yeah, it's had a resurgence in the past few years with found footage, with security camera footage style. There was that one where like all the kids are on Facebook or Skype chatting.
Yeah,
and that's the whole movie. So
there's one about Truth or Dare right now, which is the silliest concept I've heard of. But okay, Stephen King writes some very classic sort of modern horror stories. Yeah. I don't mind them getting more into his world.
He's got a large back catalog. That's
huge back catalog, and they dragged their feet on getting one of the best properties up. They made it into a hodgepodge of a movie that was supposed to be a 1 or 2 movie with like a 5-season show, followed by one final movie. It was going to be something really cool like that, but I guess they decided against it financial-wise. I think The Dark Tower would have been a perfect fit for what they're doing on HBO.
Yeah.
And I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. But
it'll fit well on that network. Yeah.
And to answer Lacey, we're not going to eat all 3. That is a meat overload, sister. So we're just going to pick one like we did before. Yeah. I believe that Carson and Ava helped vote last time. So if they want to vote, each of them individually, bison, elk, and venison. So we'll try one of these sausages here in a few minutes.
Definitely shoot some votes our way. Let us know.
But who they're adding to the cast, or playing the family neighbor, what's the character's name? Judd Crandall. It's going to be John Lithgow.
Okay.
The man surprisingly does scary very well.
He does, and I'm trying to remember the last time I've seen him in a movie.
The last movie I know that he was in was the I've Got 7 Daddies Part 2. What was that? The movie with Marky Mark, where Marky Mark and Will Ferrell are co-stepdads.
I don't remember that movie at all either.
I didn't watch. I saw the first half of the second movie.
Yeah.
And it seems kind of cute because it was 2 dads and they're very adversarial. But they're both like remarried and have their own kids, and so it's like they're trying to blend the family together and compete. Okay. But then by the end, they're friends and they get along. Yeah. So this movie is them kind of getting along and having this weird relationship, and then their dads come into town for Christmas, and they're very stereotypical, like the over-nurturing, the overly sweet father, and then the rude, womanizing father, alcoholic father coming together. It seemed like it might not be too bad of a movie. Yeah. Okay, Lacey.
Gonna vote for Bison.
Bison! Daddy's Home 2. Yeah, that's it. Daddy's Home 2.
Okay, there you go. Thank you.
A new Christmas classic.
Apparently. Yeah, I honestly, I can't even think of the last thing I've seen Lithgow in. It's been a long time.
The last thing I saw him in that I liked was Dexter. I mean, I'm telling you, he can play scary. He can play creepy. Because he does have that...
He's gaunt in a weird way, and honestly, having that big head with the ball, it's kind of like sinister alien looking. I don't know, no offense to anybody with a big bald head.
But from what I've heard, and I hope that I'm right, that he's actually just as sweet as a lot of the characters that he does play on TV. So
I'm sure.
If Jonathan Lithgow was to be a surprise guest at Raleigh Supercon, I will be in the front row.
We'll ask him.
We'll ask him.
We'll ask him and see.
We'll call him.
We'll get up and ask a question at the convention.
Oh, okay.
Ask him, are you really as nice as some of the characters?
Are you as nice as the characters, or as
terrible as the? Yeah, exactly.
Back into movies.
Yep.
Deadpool 2 comes out on the 18th.
Drops a little bit ago.
Gets funnier. I get more and more excited. But the thing that's sweeping the world right now is the music video that Celine Dion.
Yeah, I saw it. It's kind of cute. The ending's funny.
It gets funnier because it takes itself very seriously because it's a good Celine Dion classic Titanic type song. Yeah. And I felt myself going, okay, I'm not the biggest fan of Celine, but this is another good anthem song.
She's got the pipes.
She does. She looks great. and then Deadpool comes out and dances amazing as well, like perfect form.
Sorry.
So that's been huge news, and it makes me even more excited for the movie here.
I don't know. I guess we can talk more about this when we get to movie discussion later on, but I'm not all that excited about. I love the first one, but I'm not all excited about the new one just because Deadpool's one of those things where too much Deadpool isn't good. You know,
too many Ricks at the Rick and Morty festival.
It's watching too much Rick and Morty. It's too many jokes and too much silliness. After a while, it gets old. I'm hoping that doesn't happen here, but it's like all the hype and everything that's leading up into this one. There was a bunch of hype for the first one. There's so much more now for this one.
Well, now we have Cable as a very... he's a good foil for Deadpool because he's not humorous. He doesn't know how to crack a joke. He's a war-grizzled veteran who's sent back to the past to either kill a kid or save a kid or whatever the storyline happens to be.
And he'll also be genuinely threatening to Deadpool, which is another problem I have with that character is that there's very little... It's part of it, part of the humor, but there's very little can actually threaten him.
Well, it's like Wolverine, and there's another thing to talk about. When you have an invulnerable superhero, you can't take him out one-on-one. You have to take him out as a person.
Right.
And so I think that when a bad guy challenges a good guy in that way, it's like, okay, Wolverine, you can beat him up, you can blow him up, but just give him time, he'll heal, he'll come after you. Right. But if you go after someone that he loves, and that was what happened in the first Deadpool.
Deadpool, yeah, exactly.
He finally gave a crud because someone went after his...
Which is fun. That's a fun way to write a character, but at the same time, it's, I don't know. we'll get into movies later, I guess. But yeah, looking forward to it at the very least. I'm not as excited as I wish I was, but it should be a lot of fun.
I'll say this other movie, or it's a TV show, but it can fit in other movie stuff.
Okay.
But Westworld Season 2 just kicked off about 3 weeks ago.
I've yet to see any Westworld.
You would like it. It's a bit of a slow burn in the right way, where it takes its time developing the story. The twists and turns are... It doesn't feel calculated, but it's later on. It's kind of like Mozart, where you kind of realize there was a fractal pattern in the background. There was a rhythm, and then great twists that you just don't see coming.
They're all robots.
Well, that's the thing you go in knowing. So, less of a twist there.
I'm a fan of the original film from the 70s or 80s, early 80s, whatever it was, Westworld. If you haven't seen it, it's a lot of fun.
I need to watch it.
It's one of those movies that it builds tension really well. Yeah.
Well, this show gives you one of those dichotomies where the bad guy's the bad guy's, good guy's good guy, but then that line blurs to the point where you don't know who is righteous. You don't know. It's about robots. So are they people? Are they not people? Do they have feelings? Do you start to feel bad for the robots? Yeah. But then if a robot rebels, you're like, okay, we need to crush you down because you're just a robot. You don't attack a person. So you really get to test where your morality lies in the show. And fortunately, they've already been guaranteed a season 3. And this was after only 2 episodes aired, so it's like this weekend before Sunday night's episode, which I still need to watch. Already moving on to season 3, so bigger and better things.
That's nice, I'm sure, for the writers there, where you know where you can go. Yeah.
You had some game news that I think you know more about than I do.
Yeah,
so I'd like to ask you about it.
I need to read a little bit more into it, but some fun. Some Nintendo news. Some of it fun, as is pretty much always the case with Nintendo. It's sort of like one step forward, one step back.
It is.
So Nintendo's come out finally after the Switch has been out for a year, maybe over a year. Was it? It was like around this time last year that it released. They finally announced their online component, so you can play games online with Switch. And it sounds upfront like it's going to work really well. It's going to be a good deal. I think they said $20 a year or something. It's super cheap. It'll allow you to go online with your Switch and play multiplayer games. It's also going to give you access to, I think they said a couple of dozen retro games that, from what I understand, will kind of rotate in and out over time. So there's always going to be different libraries, stuff you can play. So that's That's cool. I mean, it sounds if it's actually going to be $20 a year, that's worth it just for the retro games.
Yeah, with that Netflix style pay per month or pay per year, giving you access to these plus cloud saves on some of these games, so it's still in your collection.
And stuff.
Because this is a mobile gaming device, having the ability to download games like apps is a must. It doesn't sound like they've figured out the most sophisticated way to handle a lot of these games. Plus, they're announcing some of the classic titles, Ice Climbers and Legend of Zelda, and things you definitely want to play if you don't already have it in your collection. Yeah. Although most people who want those games do have them in their collection, but to be able to just pull out your Switch and go to work and play, or on break at school and play.
It makes sense. When we were talking about the Switch before it came out, it was like, oh yeah, it makes total sense to have that retro thing going on, which leads us to the step back that they've also announced, and that is that there will not be a virtual console on the Switch.
Yes.
Which is a classic, ridiculously stupid decision by Nintendo. I was thinking about it earlier, and Nintendo they're so lucky that their first party games are so good. Because if they weren't, the company would have failed years ago. They make so many stupid business decisions. For example, not having a virtual console on the Switch.
At release,
or even
within
now.
3 months.
I mean, I understand, there could be potential complaints about, oh, now I have to buy all of these retro games again, versus maybe you could transfer them over. And I understand that, they're trying to potentially maybe push some sales towards their classic consoles. But their classic consoles aren't available ever. They sell out. They don't make enough of them.
They don't make money off of the ones that people are buying online.
Yeah,
they make the small amount on the console,
the initial sale, and then they're not. Yeah,
someone else makes double that selling it on eBay.
Yeah.
Where they could have sold 10 more if they had made 10 more.
Yeah, so they could, if there were unlimited amounts of the NES Classic out there, I can understand not doing the virtual console because you don't want to cannibalize those sales. But there isn't. There's just no way for me to get that. Give me a way to play my retro games, please. And I think a lot of gamers would still go out and buy a lot of those games again for the 8th or 9th time at this point, probably, just to be able to play them on the Switch. I mean, I probably would throw down, $20 or $30 on 4 or 5 titles.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what titles would you pick? I mean, even if you already own it, what would be a game that you would have a duplicate of to play on the go?
Zelda.
Original
Legend of Zelda, Zelda 2, Super Mario World, Super Mario 3, some of those games that you can always go back and play through again. Multiplayer stuff, Excite Bike, or anything like that would be fun to fire up quickly and play in small bursts. Tetris, cool. For that matter.
Ooh, depending on how it would run, something like Perfect Dark or GoldenEye.
Because the Switch is so powerful at this point, you could do 64 games and maybe even some GameCube stuff.
That is what they're talking about. It hasn't been announced yet, but they're hoping that with the platform should be able to handle GameCube games in a virtual console style. Awesome. So that's to be announced.
But there isn't a virtual console. So instead, apparently the announcements I've been seeing are that most of these companies, Capcom, Activision, Sega, a lot of these guys who would have had games on the virtual console instead are going to be releasing compilations.
Yeah.
So we're kind of back to where we were 15 years ago, where you got to buy the arcade thing.
Got a couple of them over there.
Stack over there. Where now you've got 20 or 30 games for $50, which is fine. I mean, but to be able to, that was the great thing about virtual console, is to be able to pick and choose this game and this game, or to have access to games that were never released in the U.S., stuff like that. So, like I said, one step forward, one step back. Nintendo hates money, apparently, because they could be making a lot more than they do. I don't know.
Before we move on to anything else, if you're joining us and you haven't voted already, you still need to help us pick our meat. It's a sausage fest. We're having either bison or elk or venison. We're going to try them out. Last time we did this, we had the wild boar. Yeah. It was weird and rubbery. I kind of liked it, but
not my thing.
No, it wasn't great.
We'll see. I mean, hopefully whichever one is chosen will be good. But yeah, if you want to throw in a vote for bison, elk, or venison, whoever gets the most votes will be eaten by us.
I have been searching desperately for those terrible flavored jelly beans that are not Season 4, Edition 4 is what they're on, and that's what we've done a couple times.
Yeah.
I want to try some of the others if they have other flavors, but I'm not going to spend $30 on eBay for one small,
for one
like a nerd's
tiny box of them
of jelly beans.
Oh, another vote for Bison there. So now I think Bison is out to the early lead,
2-0.
So we'll see how we end up. But yeah, any other news or?
Well, just one that I want to hold off on until we get more into our conversation about movies and shows coming up that we're really excited about.
Cool. We'll get to that a little bit later, but first we are going to kind of go back and recap, talk a little bit about the 24-hour stream that we did. And as Cyrus said earlier, we're still kind of set up for it. You can see over there on the right side of your screen our Extra Life donation total that we've got running. About a month ago, I forget which actual day it was, we had been planning really since Supercon last year when we found out about the charity that we wanted to do a stream for a charity called Extra Life, which raises money for children's hospitals. And they call upon gamers all over the place to do, in the fall there's a specific day where people do 24-hour streams, but people stream every weekday of the week sometimes for a couple hours to raise money. So basically, it's like, sponsoring somebody who's running a marathon. You're sponsoring us to
how many
play
miles
games.
we do, but
Exactly.
instead we thought that we would offer opportunities to donate at whatever level you would like. A couple dollars here, a couple dollars there, and maybe give you some benefit to affect the way that everything went. What we found out is people just want to drop a $20 bill and just be done with it, or something like that. So make a donation to the charity to support us, but to also support Extra Life and Children's Miracle Network hospitals. Always a hard one to say. And it was, we originally decided to set a goal of $200, but I was thinking that if we got that, we would have been over the moon, thrilled, super pleased.
Going in, we had discussed I was the pessimist as I always am, and I'm like, I don't know that we'll get. I don't know that 200 is realistic. I don't know that we'll get that much. But then you said,
and honestly, it's tough. We're asking people to give money to a charity that maybe they weren't expecting. Just they go check out a video for people that they care about or that they like, they find interesting. We want to see our friends play games, and then we're going, hey, send money.
Yeah.
And that's a tough thing to ask.
I was thinking we'd see $5 here and $4 here kind of thing.
And that still would have been great in our eyes.
But at the last minute, not the last minute, right before we were getting ready to start, not the day of, but a few days before, you said, I'm going to set the total at 500.
What's that for 500?
Like you said, because even if we get to 200, we'd be super thrilled, but we'd also be like, what if we set it higher?
What if?
So why not just shoot for the moon and land amongst the other moons? So you set it for 500, and we got started, and, well, the secret is out. You can see our total there on screen next to us. We ended up with $970 in donations.
It was kind of a slow start. We got a few big donations, $20 here, $30 there.
Yeah.
And then we got down to the wire. We got down very close to the end.
Well, it felt like the end. It was still, there was like
2 hours?
6 or 7 hours left.
No, when we broke the 500.
When we broke that,
we were down to about an hour.
I think it was more than. I think
because we had a bunch come in after we were done.
We did. We also had a bunch come in, but
it was still really close. And I thought, I do like the math. Like, okay, if we do how much per hour, then we'll make so much. But it was like we stalled out at 450.
Yeah. Yeah,
we got this is good. This is really good. We got over 200.
Yeah, like the next morning we had 200 or 300, and it was more than I ever dreamed, and I was thrilled. But then we got to that point where it was like, can we make 500? We've gotten so far, so much further than we kind of expected. And then it was coming down to the last minute, and then we got couple of really unexpected, huge, generous donations because we were like, oh, we just need a little bit more to get, and then it was like, oh, here's a dump truck. We're way over.
It was moments of slack-jawed silence.
Yeah, it was just, oh, how much? How much did we just get?
One person, and it's not that they have a lot of money, but it's that their business allows them maybe to donate, possibly. But even if it isn't, it was coming from one person with a name directly to us and dropped $200 on us.
Yeah, we had one person give
Even now, I
200.
can't.
We had 2 other people give us 100. Another gave us 50, and then I mean those were all amazing.
Awesome.
But honestly, what got me was almost we had so many of our friends who helped out, who
In some way.
would never have asked them to also they would contribute their time, who were giving us $30, $40. I mean, huge, like more. Like I said, I went into it expecting $4 or $5 from each person, and instead we were seeing really generous donations from everybody. So
it was a very moving experience overall.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say the money one more time because that showed us something that we didn't expect, and it went to a great cause. But we also had people who gave their time to be a part of this, to join us, to have fun because they cared about us and they cared about what we were doing. And then the other people who were just there watching, throwing suggestions up, leaving comments from time to time, checking us out a few times over like a 24-hour stream. That's a long haul.
We were there
guys.
the whole time, but we had a lot of people coming in and
Come and
out,
go.
checking in on us again, and making sure we weren't dead.
That was a lifesaver.
We had some folks who were, not just in front of the scenes, but behind the scenes, helping us out with some logistics and some foodstuffs. And
Yes.
just making everything possible. So
it wasn't just the two of us. It was
not at all.
a collaborative
a big
effort
team
with a
effort.
lot of people. And we learned a few things about human endurance.
Yeah, we both crashed. I think I slept about 5 minutes.
Yeah, I may have been unconscious 5 minutes.
We were both kind of like, I went and lay down for a fairly long amount of time, but it was one of those things where you're so tired you can't sleep.
Yeah.
And then, to get up, like, to be up that long and be that tired and fall asleep for 5 minutes and get up and feel actually surprisingly refreshed and then walk in and realize there's another, like, 10 hours to go.
God.
Oh, man. It was a tough mental, it wasn't awful. I'm not saying it was a real chest.
It wasn't easy,
but it was tough. I think you and I we're of an age where we remember doing that a lot when we were younger. But I know it's been a very long time since I've tried to stay up for that long. And to do it now in my mid-30s was shockingly difficult. More than I even thought it would be.
Well, I made a couple calculated errors myself, especially in that hazy pre-dawn couple hours.
Yeah, the Insomniac Theater section.
Because I said, okay, you go to bed first. Yeah. I'm gonna hang in there because I'm a Marine.
You were doing good, man.
And I can do this. Okay. No. Do you know who saved me? Hammy.
Oh,
Hammy and Evie coming to visit me. Because I went back and I rewatched the entire hour and a half maybe that I was playing Gauntlet. Yeah. There was a calculated error. I thought that would be more fun. It was a slow grind
kind of thing. Yeah,
just bookush. I'm like, oh boy, and then the cat would come over and pet me, and then I'm in my groggy voice talking to the cat and just pausing the game and trying to talk. But you've got to keep speaking. To keep it's like you keep your brain alive.
Yeah, same thing when you were done with that and you laid down. I started doing Atari games, and that's the only thing. I was like, okay, I'm going to play this and talk about it. Okay,
another game.
And it was just like, just keep going, because if I stop and actually sit there and kind of concentrate, I'm just going to be like, oh. So, yeah, you're keeping yourself constantly talking, and we were, at that time it was like, the sun was coming up, so we didn't have anybody watching us at the time, or if we did, it was 1 or 2 people. So you're not talking to an audience, but you're talking to yourself.
Talking to yourself, or talking to the audience that might watch you later.
Sure,
is kind of what I was thinking in my head, because I knew nobody was with me. But it's funny, my thought process, when you got up and you said, "Oh, I didn't sleep at all." I'm thinking, "Yeah, dude, you were in there asleep for an hour and a half. I bet you were sawing logs. I bet you crashed." But then I go lay, and I'm laying right off camera on a sleeping bag.
Yeah, you were right here.
Awake, I might have been unconscious 5 minutes, but I'm in this weird zone of I'm so exhausted, I don't want to move, but I hear what's going on, and every now and again I couldn't help but like yell something off camera.
Yeah. You're talking to me. So I was in the other room, but I could still hear. I could hear just kind of that of you talking, and like it's sort of I don't know. It's hard to explain where it's you want you're so tired you can't sleep, but it's also like you don't want to sleep because you know you're still a part of something.
Yeah, like a party. Like as a kid, you're at a birthday party, but you're tired. You want to go lay down, but you hear all the merriment, or like a Christmas party that's going outside in the den. You're like, well, I still want to be part of it.
Still awake. So yeah,
Allison, hello. If you're watching, Al, hopefully the kids are in bed because it's almost 10 o'clock. But we still need some final votes. It's a 2-0. We're gonna have a bite of either a bison. You know what these are? Did you? I think Shane got some too. Bison, elk, venison. We did boar last time, and the regular summer sausage. I'm sure that's kind of normal. So if you want to vote, if the kids are up, they can vote too. And if they are up, get them to bed. Jeez, it's almost 10 o'clock.
So yeah, other thoughts on the 24 hour? Are we going to
do this again?
Which one? The 24-hour stream?
24-hour stream.
Yes. Not for a while.
Not for maybe about a year.
I think what I would change about it is I would probably do it in the wintertime.
Well, that's when it normally goes.
Right. I think it's
like November 10th, some day around that, November 4th, 10th. So
I'd be
21st.
willing to entertain doing it on the specific day, for sure, if we decide for sure we want to do it. But I think what I realized and what I want to try and start doing is whenever I'm streaming, playing a game, to throw up the page, because you can have donations all year long. Turn it into a regular, 1 or 2 hour a week. I'm up playing for a while if anybody wants to throw in, kind of thing, rather than dedicate that much time to do the 24 hours. But I still would like to try it again. Use the lessons learned to prepare in ways. I think probably plan out rest periods more specifically and try and make sure I strategize a way to make sure that I fall asleep, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Maybe call on a couple other friends who might be able to be more involved so that we get a little bit more rotation going, and that kind of thing, because I know we had so many people who stepped in. Whitney, who's hopefully watching, I think.
She needs to be in bed too.
Who stepped in and really had the greatest gaming performance of anybody. During the whole stream, just phenomenal playthrough of MC Kids.
It's weird what you consider to be the highlights, because
it was great.
Whitney playing MC Kids, we're both punchy, but she's bright and fresh first thing in the morning. We're sopping up some biscuits and gravy as well, because she was kind enough to cook dinner for us, or breakfast for us. I don't know what meal it was. It had been a long day.
It was food.
And but having someone who's fresh and excited and play a game that they're excited about was great. Like having Sky and Harrison, they were so into the game.
It was competitive.
It was really competitive.
That was good.
I kind of want you to train Rocky style to beat Harrison Drago.
Yeah, I might be able to. Occasionally, I beat him once or twice when we actually played, but he's excellent. And I haven't played N64 or Mario Kart in quite a while. I don't know. Maybe I'll challenge him to Mario Kart 8. Might level the playing field a little bit better. I'm not sure.
Playing Broforce.
Broforce
John
so
was
much
a
fun.
huge highlight because it just got more fun and chaotic.
It was, that's a game where, like, when you play well rested, it's a lot of fun. Playing it really punchy, it was just that was probably the most fun I had the whole time, because I was just like just playing a game, just kind of kicked back.
I would revisit doing an RPG, Because when it gets later at night, that is a fun time, but in the grand scheme of a marathon, it either needs to be all or nothing.
I agree.
I think it either needs to be all tabletop RPG with a long-running campaign.
I agree.
With lots of characters coming and dying and going, or whatever you need to do, versus stop the press, do a game, then get back.
I think I would rather in the future. I would like to do more of that, but I would think we should say for this 4-hour period we're going to play a game for Extra Life charity. That's it.
Yeah.
You know, every few months here's an Extra Life stream for RPG stream, and then when the time comes to do a 24-hour, just strictly video games.
And I think if that was a thing, even if we did it say twice a week or whatever, however we frame it, the donating money to affect the game might make a little more sense than the way we had it set up with our games, because most of the people didn't want to place money on give this person a +1 to an attack, or they didn't want to choose what video game we played. They wanted to give us a challenge. So if we added some challenges, or there's still a couple. I think you have 2 outstanding challenges. You were
3 Well, okay, 4 technically.
4?
Because one of my family members who contributed, I have to mow their lawn. I haven't done that yet. But 3. I have 3 outstanding video game challenges, and those are going to be the first things that I do when I live stream, which I'm hoping to do later this week, one night, to start working on one of those. And a couple of them are going to be genuinely difficult. It might take me multiple attempts.
That Sonic one frightens me.
The Sonic one is the one that I'm thinking of specifically, beating the original Sonic the Hedgehog with all the Chaos Emeralds. Never done it before in my life. It's a tall order, so we'll see. But I'm going to continue doing those, and hopefully, we'll generate some more as the year goes along, and get a chance to do some more of this kind of thing.
Well, what do you say we shift gears?
Okay.
And talk about the big movie that we've discussed with some of our friends, and it's interesting to see their takes on it. I've had a couple people tell me that they are so excited, best thing Marvel's ever done, and that is Avengers: Infinity War.
Do we want to leave out spoilers?
Yeah.
The movie is still relatively new.
It's still relatively new. Let's avoid spoilers.
We'll do our best to avoid anything other than very mild spoilers, anything you might know just through cultural osmosis or trailers or anything like that.
Now we may comment on spoilers from the comic book that may or may not be somewhat similar, so we'll be careful there.
We'll try and be as careful as possible to make sure that there's definitely no major spoilers.
Right.
Overall impressions, yay, nay?
Definitely a big yay for me. It's not my favorite Marvel movie. It might be top 5, but it's like I said to a couple people already. It's the kind of movie that I watched it, and I knew I was watching something special. I may not have known exactly what it was. Just like Pink Panther. Black Panther. I have a company I work with during the day. It's called Pink Panther.
Yeah, the installation people.
No, but it's a trucking company. But there's a Pink Panther. I did it again. Black Panther was such a phenomenal movie.
Yeah.
And I knew it was great. But by the time it was over, I'm like, I watched something really relevant, and I don't think I picked up on it. Maybe like a Tarantino movie. You know, there's even more to it.
Yeah.
You were moved in a way. But definitely big yay for me. You? Thoughts?
Yay for sure. It was good. I'm like you. It wasn't my favorite Marvel movie I've ever seen. It might be top 5. I'd have to kind of go back and really go through the catalog and think about that. I agree. There were parts in it that were really. It's an epic movie to watch. It feels epic as you're watching it. I don't think this would be any sort of spoiler. It's long. I think it's too long. It's like 2.5, just a touch over 2.5 hours. I forget the exact running time.
Yeah.
But it's a long time in the theater. But another film, a series of films that I saw in the theater that were equally as long, Lord of the Rings, it actually felt in a way like that because the way that the movie is structured and the way that the scenes are structured are long scenes, which I really like. a lot of modern movies, especially action superhero kind of movies, will tell will tell a story cutting a lot between where would these we're back. I mean, every couple of minutes. And what I loved about this movie is that it's you get one nice long scene that resolves, and then another it felt chunky in a good way.
It was a lot like Lord of the Rings, where there were 3 acts going on at once.
Yeah,
not a spoiler, but there's stuff that's basically happening on
different
Earth,
places,
and stuff that's maybe not happening right at the same place on Earth.
Yeah.
But you could kind of follow it long enough where you don't feel like, wait, what were they doing again?
Yeah, you're not constantly cutting around, and there's no, it's one of the things. Actually, one of the things I love about, for example, Return of the Jedi is the end of Return of the Jedi. Spoilers here, by the way, if you've never seen a 30-year-old movie. The final battle in Return of the Jedi, they're cutting between 3 aspects of it.
Yep.
But they give you really nice chunks of each action before they cut. There's a lot of more modern movies. I'm trying to think of an example. I can't off the top of my head right now. But there's a lot of more modern movies that do the same thing, where there's multiple fights going on or multiple things going on, where they're cutting too quickly between, and it just creates a lot of confusion. It's the same thing with like most modern action movies. The way that they shoot fight scenes are like quick and dirty, and the camera's in tight and moving around, and you can't see what the heck's going on. Blame Gladiator for that, because Gladiator is one of the first big movies that did that.
Well, then you have something like 300 that will take an establishing shot and follow the action.
Stay with it, and you can at least follow it. I like that better.
Yeah.
That's one thing I do like about Zack Snyder. I like the way his action's filmed.
I'm not going to disagree with that.
But this movie, the combat was sort of like that, but the structure of the film was like that, where I can see what's going on, and I can really enjoy each scene and let it play out, let these characters interact. A ton of really great interactions between characters. Again, I'm not going to... I don't think this is too much of a spoiler. Thanos is in the movie.
Thanos is there.
Obviously. And one of the problems I had going in, one of my fears of this movie was we really haven't had anything set up for Thanos other than he's a bad guy and he's purple. That's really all we've been told.
Very little in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Really, a little bit from Gamora and her background, but
you knew he was the Mad Titan, and he was very powerful. Yeah, that's all.
That's about it. And coming from the comic background, I know a lot more about Thanos, but within the context, because you always want to try and watch a film within the context of that film. We didn't really know anything, so going into it, I was really afraid that he was just going to show up and be a big bad and roar and stomp around. They do a really great job of, this movie is his movie more than anybody else.
Yeah.
And you learn about the character, and he develops, and, Josh Brolin, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did a phenomenal job bringing him to life. We talked about how the CG and the mocap looks like a costume most of the time. It's the anti-Grand Moff Tarkin from Rogue One. It looked great. Super good. So that was one of my biggest fears that was totally unfounded.
The CG on all of the bad guys.
Yeah. All the effects.
Well, I don't know, but there was great. 2 that we didn't spend enough time with, but the one who, and this isn't really a spoiler, there's a female warrior kind of badass. They do a tight shot of her in the final battle of her, because she's got these like wide set eyes, and her skin goes to really black, and it looks really cool. And then the telekinetic bad guy, he is creepy beyond belief.
He was really great.
So the CG in it, kind of, you see the ragdoll effects. You can't help it. You know that's not really a person swinging around like Spider-Man. You know it, but it's done in such a way that it feels believable enough that at no point was I broken away and went, there's a computer.
Again, make the comparison to the Lord of the Rings trilogy and what Weta did with all of their like big crowd battles and so much CG that never felt like CG, and so the movie makers did a great job of understanding how to use CG and how to frame shots and never make it the opposite of the Transformers films, which are just here's computer generated garbage moving around.
Exact
for 2
same
hours.
Plot 4 or 5 movies deep.
Yeah, so
What blew me away the most was that if you go back and watch every single Marvel movie that came out from Iron Man forward, if I'm not mistaken, with possibly the exception of the Incredible Hulk.
Oh yeah, the one before
the second Hulk movie. I think that came out after the first Iron Man.
I thought it was before. Well, it was right around
right at the same time. But from there on, every single movie has led to this moment. Every character, even the Marvel TV shows, have supported this storyline, these characters, this arc to be right where we are. It's a great, what's the word? Not efficiency, but basically you're making good use of time, good use of resources. You couldn't tell this movie if you hadn't have done all those movies leading up to here. With Guardians of the Galaxy, a huge component of making this happen. You think, oh, it's a separate movie far away. This blend, they are the blending, and
okay, where's Ant-Man?
I was actually going to say there's the one exception.
Ant-Man's like,
but I have a feeling that will be more of a payoff in Avengers for
we'll see.
Yet to be named.
That's very true, and we do have Ant-Man and the Wasp coming up soon, so. There could be some tie-in there for sure.
Well, before we talk about movies and other shows that are coming up that we want to watch, what do you say we dive into our feast?
Are we going to call the vote complete?
It's a 3-0.
Okay.
0.
I agree. I don't think elk or venison are going to make a comeback on this one. All right. We're going to dig in on some bison sausage.
If you're watching, if you have any questions about our opinions on the movie, please spoiler-free.
Try and keep it. Well, please do keep it free of spoilers in the comments here during the live broadcast. But if you saw Avengers: Infinity War and you liked it,
tell us what you thought.
Like it, let us know. I've heard a couple people who weren't as high on it as we are. We talked about before we started broadcasting. I don't think anybody has outright hated it. But I think
my wife kind of hated it, but it's a little too spoilery, but basically she would rather some of the storytelling aspects not be done that way because she thought it was cheap.
There are some cheap aspects to it, but
kind of pungent. Not necessarily in a bad way. It already smells like meat.
It smells like summer sausage.
Yeah, having some Hunter's Reserve bison, no artificial ingredients.
Good.
4 gram protein per serving, no nitrites, gluten-free. How many servings?
We've got some little hunks of pepper in there, chili pepper seed I can see. So.
Serving size, 2 ounces, serving per container. Okay. It's just sausage.
Oh, no. Do I need to take the lining off?
I do.
I think I need to take the casing off. Yeah, that's not edible casing. My bad.
Just diving into it, it's not bad.
That's actually lovely. It's got a little bit of smoke and a little bit of chili peppery, not heat, but flavor. That's lovely.
That's nice.
Good call, guys. Thank you. This is so much better than the boar we did last time.
The boar was rubbery.
It was like bad dog food.
It was bad. I don't know why. This reminds me of the first time I had summer sausage. When I was hiking the Appalachian Trail, 55 miles. And on the first day, we had our lunch, and we were on this peak, top of a mountain, like ridge line. And it was bagels with chunky peanut butter, honey, and summer sausage, and a little sandwich.
All together?
Yeah, just like packed full of fuel.
That's true. Those are all high energy foods.
We needed it because it was rough.
AT's no joke.
But I was like, oh, I'll try. This is kind of, I mean, it's a weird mix, the peanut butter and the meat and the honey. But no, it was good. It was really, really good.
I was going to say, this reminds me of camping food. This is very, not fresh, but good.
I'd enjoy a big, hearty red vino with this.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. I do wish we had some red wine, actually, to pair with this.
Surprisingly, my stock of red wine has depleted.
Oh, man. But it is lovely. And good. Thank you guys for voting. and helping us out on picking our meat of the night, our roast beast. We've still got the boar left and the summer sauce. Maybe next time we do it, we'll do a different one. But yeah, good call. Well done. As I've always said, I love bison.
Yeah, we used to work at a place that had a really great bison burger for lunch.
Yeah, bison's tough to cook because it's more lean, and a lot of places will cook their special bison burger and make it too dry. So you have to be careful with that. But there's a place I used to eat out a lot when I was in college, and I think it still exists. A place called Ted's Montana Grill. It's owned by Ted Turner. But they pull all their meat is bison, and they pull it from his ranch in Montana.
Oh, that's
it's like
cool.
1 billion acres or whatever. Really, really great bison burger, but a little expensive because bison is more expensive. Anyway, Mark said you should have had the bison burger he had at the
I was
grill.
thinking that, Mark. I actually was debating between the burger and... Because I got a grilled meatloaf.
Ooh. I love me some meatloaf.
Well,
I love me a meatloaf sandwich.
the meatloaf itself wasn't bad, but it was clearly these meatloaf brisket things that they probably had in their freezer, and then they chunk them on the grill, give them some sear lines, a little bit of that cooked flavor, that smoky flavor, with some mashed potatoes. I mean, it wasn't bad. But I was like, oh, I'll have the bison burger. No, I want some good hearty food. I felt like I hadn't had like a good rich
Stick
meal.
to your bones kind of thing.
Yeah, because we had spent the whole day before at a theme park, so it was...
Yeah, funnel cakes and sugar.
Oh, yeah. So then my brother-in-law gets this really good-looking bison burger. I'm like, yeah, I made a mistake.
Yeah, it happens. Live and learn. So yeah, we talked a little bit about Avengers. It's hard for us to talk anymore about it without getting into spoilers, I guess. So if you haven't seen it yet, it's worth seeing in the theater. It's rare actually these days for me to be willing to go to the theater and see a movie. And you know what? That brings me actually something I will comment to that end. I hate seeing movies in the theater, and this reinforced that because we went. One of my biggest problems is they're so darned expensive. Yeah. But the show I went and saw with one of our friends, John,
you went to a matinee, didn't you?
Was a $5 show.
Okay.
Like when I was a kid, $5. That's great. So that was awesome. And the theater we went to was one of the newfangled ones with the reclining big leather chairs, and desk, and everything. So you could. It was great. But here's the thing about those kinds of places is they give you a desk because they sell food. And it was miserable because when we were sitting there, just a few seats down, there was a family with some little kids, and the whole time, all you could hear was of them getting into food, just constant. Especially at the start of the movie when I'm trying to get into the movie, and it's all just. It was so incredibly annoying, and I hate. This is why I wait to see movies in the theater until like their last week. Because then I'll go and be the only one in the theater, and then I get the experience of the big sound and screen without the.
Well, you went on a weekday. Why are these kids not in school?
This was Tuesday at like. Well, it was after school let out. No, it wasn't. I take that.
I thought it was like 2 o'clock.
It was like 3. I think it was 3. So, but by the same token, it was actually kind of fun to have the kid closest to us was a little boy about 8 or 9, maybe. I don't know. It was dark. I didn't pay that much attention, but younger dude. And it was fun to hear and see his reactions.
Oh, I love that.
I'm trying to remember. Spoilers, not a spoiler. Captain America's in the movie. When he showed up, he's like, "It's Captain America," and it's like, yeah, I remember being excited about movies.
Yeah.
It's been so long, and I've seen so many movies that make me not excited.
I think it was Black Panther. I was near a younger kid, and I was like, "Oh, great, he's gonna make noise." Yeah. But he made noise at the perfect time of like, "Yeah!" I'm like, "I know, dude, wasn't that cool?" Or when a little kid laughs at the really funny joke that really only the adults might be laughing at. Yeah. It's like going to the baseball game. Yeah. Sometimes you are there for the ambiance.
He's there for the first time and he's really loving it.
But then you have the family that is just disrespectful and like, okay, you guys are done eating. Give me out. Stop. You're just wrinkling, crinkling wrappers. But
and again, without going into too many in the way of spoilers, there's also some emotional moments in the film, we'll say, and seeing his reaction to that was also like it heightened that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, okay. I can't say any more without any spoilers. So
we had a bad experience at the beginning. This older gentleman who was sitting beside me was the grandpa.
Yeah.
And clearly had all kind of comments to make about every preview. And I'm like, I'm about to say something to this poor old fella. I'm going to be respectful at first. I'm going to put him in his place if he does this throughout the whole movie. Who's that? Why does she have guns for arms?
Well, that looks stupid.
Is that real? Is that the guy who was in that show? But he was actually great. It was, to our left, was a boy who had some sort of special needs, and he was maybe an early teenager, and was basically laying on Whitney's shoulder for half the movie, and like one of his legs kind of went over to her leg. He was just
it happens. It's like being on an airplane where you're just kind of like this on somebody, and that's why I did like the theater where we went, because those chairs
have just enough room.
You got all this room. Oh, that's the other thing, is what was horrifying. We sit down and I'm like, ooh, I got a recliner. And you raise your feet up, and as they do, the little cushion where my feet are swings into view, and there's just this glob, which for all the world looks like poop. And my foot's almost in it. And I'm just, so I had time. I got up and got some napkins, came back in, and it was like dry. As far as I could tell, it was like a chunk of candy bar or something that had stuck
melted
and
on the floor,
melted and dried on there. But that was kind of gross, and so I didn't get to use the recliner as much as I wanted because it was just dirty.
Was there anything going to be in the theaters soon that'll get you back out there?
No. The next Infinity War at this point, I think, will probably be the next film I see in the theater. I've been burned on Star Wars. I won't probably ever see it unless they re-release the original trilogy again. That being said, Solo, the latest trailer makes it look good. I'm not going to trust them yet.
Rogue One had a great trailer.
Rogue One had a pretty good trailer and did not live up to it. The Last Jedi actually had I think a pretty crappy trailer, but then the movie wasn't good, so whatever. The new Solo trailer looks really great, so I'm tempted to go see that, but I don't think I will.
I'll probably see it. It'll be a matinee 3 weeks in.
The $5 show.
What are you going to spoil? I know who he is.
Yeah. We know he meets Chewie. Spoiler alert. Lando's there.
We know who owns the Millennium Falcon and who wins it and how.
How does he get the Millennium Falcon? So yeah, I agree with that.
I think that'll be a fun movie.
Ant-Man and the Wasp, I can't bring myself to pay that much to go see.
Again, I'll see it like week 2 matinee early on a Saturday by myself.
Yeah,
maybe.
If I get the $5 show again, maybe.
Yeah. Well, and I want to support the actor. Jeez.
Ryan Reynolds?
No. Ryan Reynolds Jr.
That's
Rudd. Paul Rudd. Paul Rudd. I love Paul Rudd. Yeah. I think he's an anti-hero. Yeah. Whoa, pun.
He does a great job playing that character.
He does, because the problem in the Marvel Universe is you already hit out of the park with Tony Stark. Everybody else is trying to be a Tony Stark clone. You need a funny leading guy that's not Tony Stark, and the only way they've been successful to do that is to have it be Star-Lord, who's kind of a bumbling dummy.
I think they've done that with Thor now.
And then Thor, because he doesn't take him... It's like the actor doesn't take himself too seriously.
But you can't with Thor.
And that's the comedy that they didn't have in the first 2 Thor movies, but now they had it in his 3rd movie and in Infinity War.
I think also in Infinity War, Doctor Strange
He got better. He
reached that point for me in that film where I'm like, that's one of my favorite characters, and his movie was good. But gorgeous. That's the one you need to see in 3D. I wish I would have seen it in the theater in 3D.
Mind-bending.
But as a character on screen, he reached a really great point, I think, in this new movie.
Well, I'm thrilled to see Deadpool 2. Yeah. I rewatched it. The original
watch it again.
Holds up to a second viewing. You know some of the jokes are coming, but then you're ready for it, and then they throw one at you that you forgot about. Like Colossus fighting the strong woman, and then like her boob falls out. Like they don't show it; they're not being lewd. He's like, "Oh no, ma'am, your breast is falling out." She's like, "Oh, that's so sweet."
Colossus, he's a nice guy.
Because Colossus is a sweetheart.
That's funny.
I am super stoked for Captain Marvel.
Yeah,
this is a big deal.
I probably will see Captain Marvel now that I think about it, just because. No, I won't say anything.
Right. But my question is, how are they going to make Captain Marvel as important a movie as it is for the franchise being a woman lead, which Marvel hasn't done since Elektra? Am I wrong?
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah. So it's been on Ant-Man, Spider-Man, Iron Man, Doctor Strange, all the men. The women are great supporting cast, but we haven't had. I don't know if we are even going to have.
The Wasp is getting a half of a movie.
Well, yeah, she's going to be the thing that like pushes this movie over the top, but it's not the Wasp. So Captain Marvel is going to be important both for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but also to be another movie like Wonder Woman that was super huge, important, and didn't talk down to the idea of women being the heroes.
Yeah,
and
they did a good job. It's not. I don't think Wonder Woman's as good as a lot of the Marvel movies, but it's definitely the standout, way better than anything else in the DC stuff. And that's part of the reason why she's a really interesting, well-written character in that movie. Not in the others somehow, but in that one she is.
Well, they clearly had to take the subject matter very seriously, or they would have been destroyed, and the entire DC cinematic universe would have been over. No one would have seen anything else. Yeah, they're still going to buy the hats and the belts at Spencer's and Hot Topic, but beyond that, you're not going to reignite the movie franchise for another 5-10 years. They had to do it right. Captain Marvel, they're going to do it right. I just want to see. Sure. We haven't seen any previews. We're still not up to that point yet.
Yeah, it's coming out in the winter time, right? Sometime before the next Avengers.
So we're ready for it. I'm ready for it.
Yeah,
I think we only have 2 Marvel movies between now and
Ant-Man the Wasp, and then Captain Marvel, and then we're back to part 2.
Which I was afraid. I thought it was 2 years between movies, like they do Star Wars, but it's only 1 year. Because they were able to kind of jump back into...
They film both at the same time, almost. So.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
This was not a bad sausage. I'm going back to
impressed. It was tasty, for sure. So, cool. Well, you want to move on to... What do we have next? Table topic. You want to move on to our table topic of the evening? Cool. Cool. So this is something that we thought of just before we went on air, but it's drawing on something that we were dealing with just last night when we played in one of our friends' games that we've been playing for a little while. And it's an interesting topic that we'll almost certainly revisit later on some GM's Chair, GM Roundtable videos, but it's one of player rewards. And we're not talking about at a game making your player happy. We're talking about in-game rewards, loot, experience to a lesser extent, but gold and loot and the video game type treasures that you give to your players as a GM. Excuse me. We played in our friend's game last night, and he was experimenting in the dungeon we were in with random loot. He rolled for random loot, and he rolled, I guess you'd say poorly, whatever, because basically there was nothing. In a couple of different rooms in this dungeon, there was literally just some bones. That was it, or there was a totally empty storeroom. It's just straight up empty. There's literally nothing in there. Which is, I asked him, how do you know it's a storeroom then if there's shelves? And stuff.
There's shelves and dust circles on the shelves.
If there's nothing, if there's no shelves then. But, so we ran into this random loot idea, which I appreciate from a certain perspective, but man, was it unrewarding as a player. So I guess the question for us on the table topic is best practices. How do you reward your players in your game? How do you go about that? How do you choose rewards? What are good ways to do that? What are maybe not some good ways?
Yes.
It's a big topic.
It is a big
We'll
topic.
revisit it more later for sure.
Let's tackle first randomization.
Yeah,
I think there is a place for that.
there absolutely is.
It's like terrain randomization. Sometimes when you're building something out of clay, you don't know what that one bump will look like. When you're using wood, the way the grains work, you're gonna find in nature, in random moments, a story in and of itself. So when you use a random table, it can give you an idea you didn't have before. And I love the idea of that. So I think referencing random loot tables
Works as a good prompt
is a very good prompt.
to build off of.
But you have to consider what the point of adding loot, and if you don't know what loot means, it's usually a combination of treasure, weapons, maybe magical items, artifacts, interesting pieces that either connect to the story or it's just something that a player can use. So if you find a treasure chest, that would be full of loot in a game like
Equipment and items and financial rewards that your players find.
Mm-hmm. To further them in their game.
Yeah.
So why are we finding loot? Just because it's interesting scatter?
No, it's in part it is rote tradition. It is
True.
Old Testament that when you go into a dungeon and kill the dragon, that there is treasure there. If you go all the way back to the first edition of D&D, that's how you leveled up, was by getting gold. You didn't get experience, you got gold, and the more gold you got allowed you to level. So,
Right.
It goes back to the very bones of what tabletop role-playing games are. But beyond that, it is an itch scratcher. I think most importantly, it is a way to grow your character. It is a way to change your character, make it unique. All of a sudden, my character finds this little dagger, and he just thinks it looks cool. So now he wears it on his hip, and that becomes a signature part of. He's always got this weird dagger on his hip.
Yeah.
So there, or I need to purely from a stats perspective, I need to upgrade my attack by a couple points. Oh, well, I find a more powerful weapon, and now I get a +2 instead of a +1.
Well, sometimes that strategy
scratching
happens
that itch
amongst your players to round out. I always think of like a Final Fantasy game where you go, okay, well, this guy has mithril armor, so he doesn't need this, but actually I could give the mithril armor to this guy, and he could wear the full plate armor, which is going to give him another bonus. So you're like trading clothing so that everyone gets maximized a little bit as opposed to one person over another.
Right.
So giving general loot, I think, that anyone could use is a nice way to go, hey, here are some cool things.
Yeah.
Part of why I added into the Birthright campaign, you guys have an immovable rod. That's a pretty cool thing. Well, the only person who's made maybe the best use of it is the monk, or at least who could, because he's more dexterous.
Yeah,
he
you can use it to
climb on things, but anyone could use it at any time if they think that it might work, because it's kind of a general purpose item. If I made an item that was character specific, I tried not to make it so obvious if at all possible,
Right.
or be something you might want, maybe you don't. The ranger, where was it? I think it was in one of the subterranean puzzle dungeons. There was a almost inky black quiver that had it didn't have any arrows in it, I don't think. But the idea was it gives you a +1 to your armor when you're being attacked from behind only. So this was kind of a homebrew situation,
Quiver.
like an armored quiver, because it was actually like black snakeskin. So it would help deflect the any ranged attack in particular, or it might have been anything. And so you don't really have you're facing this creature.
Yeah,
or not.
D&D are always facing every direction.
Facing every direction. But I liked, hey, Logan, if you're watching, and of course, Bethany, if you're watching too. Hey, guys, love you very much. That was for the Ranger, but I didn't know if he'd want to wear that. That wasn't what his character looked like he would have. But it was kind of cool, and he was like, yeah, I want to wear that. That's badass. Okay. So I think when you're designing the loot for your encounter, let's just say encounter as opposed to campaign, randomization can take you to a degree of inspiration, but do you know that character does have an itch? Do you know that character is kind of dissatisfied with their weapon?
Yeah, wanting an upgrade.
But at the same time, am I just trying to upgrade you so you're maximized? Or
see, that's I run into that problem when you start talking about I'm designing specific loot items for specific characters, because then, you know, you run into the danger of railroading equipment. Right. Where I'm giving you this piece of armor, I'm giving you this sword, and as a player, well, everything else, every other option is worse, so I have to use these things that you gave me because that's what you want, you know.
Good, you want me to have this special
so you're taking some of that choice away from the players about how they want to build their character. So I think you can get into a danger of building stuff too much. I think, you should always make a goal that any item you give to a player that you think they are going to want is still potentially going to be useful to somebody else. And more importantly, one of my thoughts, it comes in with randomization, but also designing. You always want to make sure that it makes sense in your world. To find, you know, you're in this centuries-old dungeon that nobody's ever been in before, and you find a couple of potions laying on the ground. Mm-hmm. That doesn't seem... How are those potions not spoiled? Or how did they not get eaten by bugs or knocked over? Or how did the glass not crack and they spill out? Like, how is their potion sitting there? Or versus, you know, you find a withered old axe that looks like it's rusted. Well, you clean it up and you realize it's magical. You know, it's something that makes sense in the context. Or... You know, you're in a setting that you're running where it's very low powered, low magic, and then all of a sudden they're finding magic items scattered everywhere. It's like, no, that's not. There's very little magic in this world. You should be finding more mundane, some masterwork stuff maybe, but nothing +8 greatsword or anything. Hello, Evelyn.
What is Evie doing?
She's exploring. Oh, she's gonna lay down up behind you now, I guess.
Sweetie.
Sorry.
Hey, baby. Oh, she's fine.
So yeah, I think realism and not necessarily, realism in terms of not like, oh well, excuse me, they didn't have steel at this point in history. Not that kind of realism, but the realism of it feels real, it fits with your game and your story. Mm-hmm. It makes sense.
Oh, well, so let's use our event last night as sort of a demonstration.
Okay.
Because we were in kind of like a dungeon.
Yeah.
And we went to fight a dragon.
Uh-huh. A pestilence dragon.
Pestilence dragon.
Or a plague dragon.
So other people have probably gone down there to fight it.
Right.
And probably
We found the remains of some people.
Yeah. There's some weird story element there that clearly John's trying to do, and I don't know what it is, and I don't like it. Don't know what you're doing, John. Because there's basically 2 dead characters that were the 2 of us.
Yeah, I'm still having questions about that we didn't get answered.
Did we fight a time dragon?
Yeah.
And that was the us that died at some point?
That's one of the 14 million different
possibilities.
Yeah, okay.
That could have been his
leave that there.
His jab at something. But it's entirely likely that we could have found just about anything.
Yeah.
If we found a loot that a bard would have carried that was enchanted, it would make sense that it was down there because some adventuring team left it behind. Yeah. But if we are in a temple, we're less likely to find a working temple. Why would we find a battle axe on a wall somewhere?
Exactly. Yeah, you're in the temple of a god of healing. And you're finding weapons. No, that doesn't.
Probably not.
You know, a knife that's designed to drain blood of enemies or something. That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I totally agree.
What I like to do is occasionally, in another game I was playing for International Tabletop Day, a situation happened that made me think of a really cool enchanted idea, like an enchanted item. What could you do with that? So I'm excited to have it exist in the world of my campaign. That doesn't mean it's going to be the next thing you find in treasure chests. So I think if you keep sort of a stockpile of cool items that they might be able to find based on the story. Yeah. Let's say a magical compass. Yeah, I'd like them to find the magical compass. They're doing a lot of exploring. Maybe it isn't right away. Maybe that moment where treasure would present itself, or you kick over. You're not going to kick over a rock and find the compass underneath it, but you find the corpse of a fallen adventurer. It seems to be rather fresh. Yeah. That hasn't been picked over by carrion or anything. It doesn't look like they were robbed. Then it makes more sense you find cool stuff on them. I like to name items whenever possible. That gives it an immediate mythos. Yeah. So if you find a sword and then engraved in the hilt it says Sentinel, I want that. I want it.
I want to wield Sentinel now. Yeah, those two things both tied into a point that I think is important too, is that using loot as a story item.
Yes.
It's a great idea to have a couple really cool items set aside in the same way that we always say, well, you know, as a good GM, you always want a couple of encounters set aside to where I need an encounter really quick. Okay, I've got this one pre-done. Same thing with loot. You want to, you know, I need something to happen right now in this game to maybe slow things down, or maybe things have been kind of chill and I want to punch it up. All of a sudden, you stumble upon a magic hourglass. Or you find an hourglass sitting on a pedestal in the forest. Whoa. And now your party spends the next 2 hours carefully approaching it and trying to figure out. And
do we even do it? Do we even touch it?
It's just a mundane hourglass. Yeah, or maybe it isn't. They turn it over and they go backwards. You know.
So in Birthright, you guys may find an hourglass.
How cool is that? Ooh, yeah, it's on a pillar. But if you pick it up and turn it over, you go back in time and now it's still there, and you've got to try and figure out how to get it away. Yeah. So, you know, I think there's and again, like you said, named items, any item that has a history, it's a great way to introduce a story element or introduce just a new interesting twist in your game. Where we just found Sentinel. What is Sentinel? Next time we're in town, I'm gonna go to the library or go to the keep and ask, do you have any tale of this great sword Sentinel and what it, you know? Oh yeah, that was belonged to King bucking on the
and it's
party.
Been lost for a number of years.
Yeah, you know. So
no, it won't be Bethany. Don't worry. Wink.
It is a port key, however.
It is. It takes you to
Voldemort. That shall not be named. Yeah, I agree. And name stuff also leads into one of the things that you have to be very careful about introducing, but I think is really fun, and that is sentient magic items.
Yes, you do.
Any sort of item with that sort of extra baggage onto it.
If you create a sentient magical item, you are now running a game with an extra party member that you have to run at all times, because let's say you get a magical bow and you're an archer and you talk to it, but then you're going to ask it questions. The player's going to do that all day, so you're going to have to answer questions as the bow every single game. And I think it was handled very well by our dungeon master friend Jeff, when one of the characters had this kind of enchanted sword that had a dark mystery about it. And maybe once per game, he would pull him aside and tell him what the sword said, and that was kind of it. It was like a once per game quick check-in. It was never made a big deal of until the end. But yeah, that's a dark and devastating thing to add. And with that in mind, overpowered items. You could very easily add so much magical stuff.
Yeah.
Like the sword named Sentinel doesn't even have to be a +1. It could just be this very heavy great sword that a fighter used to have of great renown, and you know you can keep it if you want. It's a really nice sword. You might want to take it over to this kingdom and see if maybe they want it back. Maybe they'll pay you for it. I don't know.
It's all of a sudden a daily quest or something.
Exactly.
Yeah, that goes back to talking about, you know, tailoring items for specific people. When you do that, it's also very easy to end up overpowering a party. Right. Oh, I've got this cool idea for this awesome weapon for my archer and then I'll give it to him, and all of a sudden he's killing everything in 2 hits, and I've broken my own game. So, yeah, I think that again falls into the realism idea of, you know, would these overpowered items really exist out there just laying around in a dungeon? There needs to be a reason for things to be there, for sure.
If you are the person who's creating the environment, the entire world that the players get to occupy, then you get to set almost all of the rules except for game mechanics. So who's to say that overpowered weapon isn't cursed?
Right.
Nobody decided to check that it's cursed? That's fine. The curse doesn't have to enact right away.
Mm-hmm.
The curse can be enacted on the next blood moon, and that's when it takes place. And you can have it be something that they need to get rid of, or they need to destroy.
Here's one I like, is you pick up that magic item that's really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? It belongs to somebody.
And they're coming
and
for
they're
it.
looking for it.
They're looking for it.
And they're close. So now all of a sudden keeping that item means you're on the run for 3 or 4 sessions from a giant who wants his toothpick back. Yeah, so creating consequence for some of those things is a lot of fun. But I also think, and this was where I would use random stuff a little bit more. Again, it always comes back to scratching the itch, filling up the bars, raising the numbers, the things that World of Warcraft gets so right that makes you want to go back and play. Is you got to give your players, oh, you found X number of gold pieces. Oh, you found 3 or 4 of these gems. Just reward. Nothing. You don't have to have anything special about it. No pluses, no story elements, no weapons even. Just good old-fashioned loot. A really pretty chalice made of gold.
That was what was really cool in my buddy Eddie's game where Birthright was born. When the original party fought some pirates, we kicked their butt and we took their ship. Yeah. And the ship had their stolen loot. So we basically took the ship, whirled it back around to a port city, and spoke with their constable, and basically said, we own this ship now, by the way. We don't know who owned it before. It's ours. But here are the pirates who gave up. Here's the heads of a few who didn't. There are some bodies on the shore if you want to go get them. The ones that weren't mauled by the 2 Cyclops that came pounding out from nearby. And we said, you can come in with a couple people and see if anything in here is stolen that you know of. The rest is ours. And so they took very little out. And then we had these paintings that were worth money, and a gold chalice, and a statuette. And it was cool. It was like, okay, well, how much of this do we sell and how much do we keep? Because it's swag.
Yeah, I'm going to hang this in the captain's quarters. Yeah, that comes down to, we talked about in the past, making interesting NPCs. And just a little hint of color makes an NPC so much more interesting. Same thing for loot. You find 40 gold pieces. Cool. You find 20 gold pieces and this beautiful statuette that's intricately carved. And when you look at it closely, you realize the eyes are actually emeralds embedded in. Oh, cool! It's worth 30 gold. Well, you just gave the players 30 gold, but in a really interesting way.
Yeah.
So,
and even what John did in our game last night, I may have even seen this item in the random loot roller that he used. It was a staff that was enchanted, and it gave off
the rune staff.
An illusion. You're like, oh, illusion magic. What does it do? And the runes glow. And with careful reading of magic runes, it just tells a really long, boring joke. That's it. The magic is just that the runes light up.
It's enchanted with light up runes.
Is it a +1? No, but it looks really cool.
Yeah. Those are the kinds of items that you give to characters, and then they're going to keep for the rest of the game, and they're going to remember it. And it's going to, when they come time to paint their mini, they're going to paint their mini with that little dumb staff that you gave them that glows. It's just because that means something to them.
I think that could be good storytelling, because then maybe you use that at one point, and it's a game changer. Oh, I offer this to you, Dragon Lord. It is a special staff that I've carried many miles, and who knows what it could mean.
My character has a crowbar that gets etched in acid, and now it's my signature weapon. And
that's one of the coolest weapons.
That's what I have, and it's that's my symbol, and
the crowbar,
some random goofy thing that I chose.
Was it like a D5 or D7?
It was a D4 or a D6. I can't remember. I think might have been a D4, and it eventually got upgraded to like a D6, but with what is it, quickening or whatever it gets, and then second attack, and it started to get really cool. But
crowbar.
That's the other thing is you can always remember as a GM you can upgrade items, not necessarily give them new ones, but if they have a cloak that they love to wear that's part of their character, but you know that they need to be upgraded a little bit. Have them run into a guy who can enchant it and make it more powerful.
Yeah, there's a drawstring that has a piece of chain on it that gives you a +2 to stealth, and it helps you be more quiet.
Just enchanted with this magic that seems to quiet you when you wear it. Yeah. So yeah.
My last question: you give so much loot. They collect it. They hoard it.
Yeah.
And especially if it's a multi-use, but then it expires kind of thing. Like a magic wand. Let's say I got you a wand of fireballs.
Okay.
And you've got 10 fireballs.
Fireball. Okay.
You're not going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're going to go 1, put it away, save the other 9.
1, 2, yeah.
How do you get them to use the items that you gave them? I have a problem with this. How do I get my players like, look in your bag, you've got cool stuff.
You should always, as a GM, expect your players not to use everything you give them, because they're not going to see situations the same way you do. They're not going to think of the same solutions you do. They're not going to think to use it. I would, and that's. I think that's also part of the fun and internal storytelling of playing a long game where your character grows in power. Is that by the time you reach level 12, 13, 14, your home base should look like what's Doctor Strange's hangout in New York?
Oh, the Sanctum Sanctorum.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because now all of a sudden you go to there and there's a wand. I've never even used that, but it's got 40 charges of heal on it. I don't know. There's this armor over there that's like a +8, never even taken out of the box. It becomes that's filling those bars for player progression to make them feel more powerful, make them feel wealthy. Look, I've got all these magical items. I haven't even used half of them, but I've got them, and that means I'm a powerful wizard with all kinds of rings. And I think that's you shouldn't always expect your players to use everything you give them. I think at lower levels they're going to be more likely to use stuff because they'll won't have anything else to use, and certain things that are clear on what they do, like a wand of cure moderate wounds, you know what that does, you're going to use it. A wooden box that when you open it makes things inside of it invisible. You give that to a player, it's a cool item, but you're going to have to, that player is going to be like, I don't know what to do with this right now. They put it on their character sheet. The next week, you as a GM are like, oh, that box will be handy here right now, but they're not thinking about the box. They've forgotten about it already.
Right.
It's hard to that's the problem with creating interesting magic items, is that it's the same thing as creating an intricate plot. Mm-hmm. It's hard to get your players to see what you see and without railroading them. And then sometimes you have to railroad them with items.
You do.
If you want them to use that item, all of a sudden it starts vibrating or it starts talking to you, and then
you hear a voice from far away. Only a fire arrow that's forged in the heart of a volcano. You mean my volcano arrows? Maybe.
I forgot I had those. You do have to. Players are shockingly smart when you don't want them to be, and staggeringly dumb when you need them to figure something out.
That is very true.
This is the way it is.
I think there's a cautionary tale to be told. It's the cycle of loot. You go as an adventurer. You go into the dungeon. You find the corpse of a fallen fighter who's got a weapon and some potions and some magic rings. And so you take it all, and then you go in the next room and you fight the monster, but you don't use any of the cool stuff you got, and now you die. And now someone else comes in and finds your body and loots it.
There's different types of players when it comes to video games. I'm a hoarder. Where in a video game, if you give me power-ups, I will never use them, because I'm always, what if I need it next level? And then I get to the end of the game, and I kill the boss, I end the game, and I've got 400 Phoenix Downs that I've never touched, because if I got into trouble, I just restarted, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's absolutely a thing.
I think if there's any way you can help your players use their weapons and without railroading, I think that is a topic for another time, of how we get them to use the items we've given them and we get them to follow the clues that we have slapped them in the face with the wet and warbly rubber clue stick. Just bah, 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 bah. And then, I'm hitting you with it. It's a big Nerf bat.
And then the next game, the new NPC walks in and they go, "Hello, adventurers," and they immediately, "You're the bad guy." Like, well, there goes the next 8 sessions. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Take your meta hats off, friends. This is a lowly commoner. You're gonna like me. He's the villain.
He's actually the villain.
That's why you almost can never do that in games anymore, because people will see it from 100 miles away. And as soon as one person sees it, they're going to foul it up for everybody else. They're going to go ahead and say what they think is going on out of character. Like, oh, come on, dude.
And then when you introduce the character who's just supposed to be a throwaway nothing, all of a sudden everybody thinks he's the big bad and spends the rest of the night trying to figure out who he is. You're like, guys, this is just a lush fruit vendor.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like the woodsman that everybody met in the tavern. He just happened to be kind of a chill dude who's drinking whiskey, willing to share it, wants to hear some stories. And then he's like, oh, okay. Well, if you need help sometime, I'll help you. And all of a sudden, he becomes kind of an important NPC because everyone else decided he was.
Yeah. Well, we're getting off track there.
It's never off track when it's a tabletop.
That's very true. But we'll wrap up table topics there, and I guess we'll move on to the close of our show, where we typically dedicate this period of the FoundryCast where we talk about FoundryCast business, what we're doing, what's going on. And in this specific case, we've mentioned it a couple times earlier, we're talking about Raleigh Supercon especially. But we're talking about the road to con. At the end of July, it's the first con we're going to be both going to this year. I'll be going to Dragon Con a month and a half later, something like that. But
I have yet to be determined at the moment. Unlikely, but we'll see where the world takes me.
It's extremely expensive, unlike Supercon. So
yeah, cost is prohibitive. I could afford the tickets to the show. It is
the
hotel, taking an extra day off of work, everything else there involved. And then it also happens to be a family holiday for me, so it's like I missed out on seeing these people for a whole another year. And last year it was worth it. Last year at Dragon Con, got to spend time with you and Gil, ran into some other friends,
John.
Although I'd really like to spend more time with them.
Yeah.
Got to really bond with our buddy John.
Saw a bunch,
So got some good panels, got some good ideas, saw some cool costumes. So it was worth it to me. But SuperCon to me, I feel like there's so much more value in the ticket price, and it's still on the smaller side.
It's a baby con. This is his second year, and it's little, but it's growing. It's got a great guest list again this year. Not as many like A-listers, but a lot more like B and C listers that are interesting.
I feel like the A-list will be growing as we get closer.
They're usually the last ones that kind of jump in as their schedules kind of fall out for the summer.
Once they find out what their shooting schedule is on the next movie, maybe they have some availability.
Or other cons are going to, or things like that. But so yeah, as we're recording, we're a little less than 2 months, right? 2 months? Yeah, 2 months away. It's at the end of July. July 20th, I think.
Yeah, it's over 2 months. But yeah.
100 days or so, something like that. Oh, no, less than 100 days. Anyway, it's coming up in a couple of months. And yeah, I guess we start with a hopeful bit of news.
So going in, worst case scenario, we're going to have as great a time as we did last year, if not better.
Oh, yeah, it would be a better time because we'll know what to expect.
We'll know what to expect, and we can take great advantage of it. However, we decided we wanted to host a panel ourselves at SuperCon. Now, we didn't know if what we were able to present was the kind of thing they would want.
Yeah.
But tabletop gaming, role-playing gaming, anything in like the D&D medieval fantasy is within the realm of what SuperCon is all about. So we put in a proposal. It was a little bit later to submit than we'd like to, but we still got it in well before the deadline.
Yeah, before the deadline.
And the deadline expired 8 days ago.
A few days ago, yeah, the first of the month.
So we are still waiting on a reply from the folks there to say whether we have been accepted for a panel or thank you, better luck next year, or maybe on a waiting list. I don't know how it works. Maybe we are.
Who knows? I think they did mention that there is potential for a waiting list, I believe.
We try to be as flexible as possible, and I'm willing to take some of the crappier shifts, like early in the morning or late at night, because I want to go to the other panels.
That's part of the thing is doing a panel is you don't want it in the middle of the day on a Saturday.
Well, they do say, are there any panels you don't want to miss? And I said, I don't want to miss Dave Bautista. I don't want to miss Alice Cooper. I don't want to miss, and I named a few that I know you want to go to as well.
If it came down to hosting a panel, I'd miss anything. I'd be willing to miss anything to host a panel because it would be great. So, we've talked about it for since we've been going since you started going to cons. Last year was your both those cons were your first cons.
First true cons.
We've been talking about it for a long time with the Foundry. We sit here and we do podcasts, we do long form discussions, GM's Roundtable. It's right within our wheelhouse. We've been wanting to do it. This seems like an awesome opportunity. We've got our fingers crossed, really hoping that we get a chance. We would host a panel on tabletop gaming, as you said, specifically some ways to punch up your GM, how you play as a GM, how you run your game, make it more interesting.
Well, and what we did was we left it open to them as well. If they wanted to, if they had space to fill, and maybe they're doing tracks this year like they do at Dragon Con, where sort of themed things that are all happening. So if you want to go on the anime track, you would go to these. The costuming track, you'd go to these. But if they needed more panels that we could fill out some space, our one seminar could become 3. Basically take the 3 concepts we had in it and break them open much larger, which I'd be very happy to do because just doing a little experimentation in the car, driving to and from work, it's hard to fit what it is that we want to cover in 15-minute slivers.
It's doable, but it's basically a really quick glance at something. It's not a really in-depth thing. So, and of course, when the time comes and you're there, and there might be questions, things change. But
and we are hoping that all of that would feed back into maybe more people to check out the website,
some viewers and some fans to help us, find more stuff to do and like the stuff we're doing. So that's the hope. But like you said, even if that doesn't happen, we're still stoked to go. We're going to be doing filming there. We'll do an after-action report like we did last year with a cool video. We'll try and do some live casting, something while we're there. Be doing a bunch of stuff leading up. I've got an idea for a costume prop project that I think I'm probably going to go forward with. Because money is an issue more than anything else this year for costumes. I can't really do a lot of full-on costume stuff like I want to. But some smaller prop stuff that would still be fun. I'm hoping to get some of that done in time for Supercon, do some videos on that, share those with everybody, and have a cool prop at the end. I hope. We'll see.
Well, and so that leads sort of cyclically back around in preparation for the convention. If that is indeed something that we are selected to do, a lot of the content that we'll be making between now and then is all sort of feeding that purpose, or at least helping guide us to where we need to be. So I could speak for the Crafty Bee Gamer side of things that a lot of what I'm doing to prep for the seminar that might have to do with terrain, I'm going to be doing videos based on what I'm making and why, and so that not only do I have the things that I want to make to take, but then if you go back and watch later, you'll get even more information on what I did and why. And I know we're going to be doing more of like the GM's Chair.
Yeah, we've got GM's Chair and GM Roundtable ongoing series that will touch on a lot of the topics that we're going to be talking about at that panel.
Right.
Beforehand and afterwards as well, so that anybody who's finds us there and really likes our stuff can go back and get more detailed info. So definitely expect a lot of content towards that direction for sure. A lot of stuff prepping for the con, basically, kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I like the idea that we're prepping for the thing to do the thing that people can go back and look at the stuff we prepared to do the thing. And it's also, with the behind the scenes things going on of just life being what it is, we're having to get smarter and smarter.
Yeah, we're going to have to streamline a lot of stuff.
Free time, focus. There are things that we were doing that we loved that, may not work as well for the effort put into it and the results afterwards. Like even Uncle Minecraft, I like the idea of it. I think it's really cute. Yeah. I think I either need to go a different direction with it, or it's just kind of an ancillary.
You can go on the back burner if need be.
So it's fun. I love doing that, but it would require maybe more assistance from other parties to take it to where I really want it to go. Yeah. But that doesn't mean we're gonna abandon Minecraft. We're gonna stay on top of that because it's flipping fun.
Yeah, you'll definitely see streaming from us. I think is one thing we've noticed that is super easy to do. It's a lot of fun for us, and it's generating good content that I think people will want to see. So we've talked about, we've done a lot of Minecraft streaming already. We'd like to make that a regular thing and maybe get some other people involved eventually as well. I'm going to be doing gaming streaming as well. Like we talked about earlier with the 24-hour, I've got challenges from our 24-hour challenge that I need to go back and complete, and hopefully I'll get some more, and if not, I'll make some up for myself. But some easy content, fun content to do. And we've got some other random stuff. I've got a bunch of kind of retro. Like nostalgia sort of theme stuff that doesn't necessarily fit in a specific category, but I think it's going to be fun content. We were talking about this the other night, and I mentioned, I see tabletop stuff that we're going to be working on as the chocolate, and that's the big thing, and that's what everybody's going to come in to see. But then we're also going to have some vanilla and some strawberry on either side to give you a little bit of different flavors, some options to play around with,
and some boysenberry, oddities observed,
some snozberries. Yeah, oddities observed is another thing that we want to get some fun. I was going to say real time, but some on-screen content
on-site
remote style stuff done now that the weather is finally conducive to being outside again.
Should we announce the other thing that we didn't scrap but we moved on from, that we are going to maybe try to
the boop boop click in the thing in the book? I'm not sure what you're talking about. Obviously I assumed you meant one thing, but I don't think I did. Oh, yeah. Our other discussion.
Yeah, podcast
I would love to make some of those happen in the next couple months, too.
We're not 100% on it, but we're thinking of bringing back the Beer City Pubcast.
Which, we published the first one, I think. I can't even remember if we actually did, but Beer City Pubcast is an idea we've worked on before the FoundryCast existed, even. It's the first kind of collaborative project we really did. But it's a podcast talking about nerdy stuff, a lot of the same subjects, but it's framed because we're lucky enough to live in Asheville, North Carolina, Beer City, USA for several years. We haven't won that title in a couple years, whatever. But a home of 20, 30, I think some breweries at this point, tap rooms, pubs, all kinds of cool stuff where we can go and hang out, have a recorder with us, enjoy some adult beverages, and at the same time talk about all the stuff we enjoy.
It's such a different thing. It has this kinetic energy because it's live. It's immersed in an actual setting where things are going on that we can't predict, and so who knows what will happen or how the conversation will go when we're there on site with minimal prep, just an idea of where we're going and maybe where we want to end up. It doesn't mean we'll actually get there.
It's kind of like GM's chair.
It's a lot like GM's
versus something like this, where we're a little bit, you and I are two voices focused on a subject. With Beer City Pubcast, is three voices or more kind of floating around the subject. So love to get some of that out there as well. For sure.
And we got a lot of great friends who've already shown interest in contributing.
Yeah, quite a few people.
And some different voices than we've necessarily had on
different perspectives
on our videos before. So that'll be really cool.
Absolutely. Anything else project wise?
I don't know. I think for me, there's going to be just a lot more hands on with materials.
I need to paint.
We need to paint
a mini for Monday, in fact, and then also paint two other minis.
I've got to paint my mini, but I'm not going to be using him for a while, so it's kind of sad. But just something about, I would like to do more painting. Yeah. I still, if we were there, if we had a big, beautiful studio with a different camera rig, and we would just have everybody over, and I want to do just like 4 or 5 people hanging out with cameras right on their minis like we did before. I thought was really cool.
Our last live cast, we did.
You're right.
It was a lot of the one before our 24-hour stream. That was a lot of fun.
But what's his name? The guy who was the older brother on Boy Meets World has beat us to it.
Yeah?
Well, I mean, other people do that, but he's got his own show on Geek and Sundry where other people come in and are teaching him how to paint minis, and it looks really funny. Yeah. So I'm like, oh, you...
Everybody has always done everything before.
It's
You're
true.
never going to be original.
Nothing new under the sun.
But we're just trying to do what we love and do it the best of our ability, and hopefully some folks come along for the ride like we've always done.
Sometimes they do, like Bethany, and sometimes Bradford's hanging out with us too. Lacey usually gives us some love at like the beginning of the podcast before she goes to sleep, which I don't blame her. She's got two amazing but raucous little girls. And, of course, Amaryllis, who may or may not still be with us, but she usually hangs out with us for a lot of it. And the wives, they're always amazing, supporting.
Yeah, we got a lot of people, as we talked about earlier, some folks that have donated to our Extra Life. We've got a lot of good people in our lives that are really great and help us out with all kinds of things. So thank you from the bottom of both of our hearts. I'll speak with you on this one. Thank you for helping us out.
Of my subconscious.
Contributing and being a part of the FoundryCast in the way that you are.
She's still here.
Thank you for watching.
She gets a like.
I guess at this point we'll wrap things up. Like I said, thank you for watching this. If you're watching after the fact on our YouTube channel, thank you for checking it out. There's lots more content on our YouTube channel and on our website, thefoundrycast.com. You can check that out. For videos, blog posts, pictures, all kinds of stuff.
Until next time, I am the sole Infinity Gem.
And I am the new flavor at Taco Bell and the hot sauce that's not fire and not hot. It's somewhere between. It's kind of slightly hot. And you've been watching the FoundryCast.
Bye, guys.
Good night, everybody.
Expelliarmus.
Shoot laser beams at our lovely audience.
Oh, it actually, yeah, you see it?
Oh, look at that. It blinks.
Does it?
Yeah, look at that. Does it do that normally? Or is it just our camera picking up the infrared? That's cool. Our camera picks up a little bit of infrared for some reason. Ah, it's shooting lasers. I got it in the screen.
That is neat.
That's cool. Good night, everybody.